Jai Hind to all. This is Akanksha Shukla from Information Technology Department, and today I am going to present some important things about the topic that is Java server pages. So these are the contents which I will cover: Java server pages introduction, overview, example, implicit objects, scripting, directives, standard actions, and custom tag libraries. So what is basically, before moving on to the topic that is Java server pages, let me introduce you something about a servlet. Servlet is a Java class which is basically used to extend the capabilities of the servers and that are going to host the applications which are accessed by means of any request response model or any client server model. So servlets are basically used to extend that applications which are hosted by the web servers, and also they can able to respond to the other kinds of request tools. But for such applications, there are some specific servlet classes which are basically for such applications. HTTP specific servlet classes are defined by the Java servlet technology. So servlet technology is used to specify the HTTP specific servlet classes, and for dynamic web hosting applications we use the servlet, which is a kind of Java class. And we can also say that the servlet is a kind of replacement of the common gateway interface which we use in the previous days, CGI. So the servlet is the replacement of the CGI, and the JSP is not, we can say that it is a replacement of servlet, but it is a kind of extension of servlet having some advantages over both the servlet and CGI. So JSP is generally a text document which basically contains two types of text, just like static data and dynamic data. Okay, so static data can be expressed or can be represented in any text based format, just like HTML, XML, SVG and WML. But the dynamic contents here are going to be expressed in terms of JSP elements only. So let me tell you about some basic difference between JSP and servlet. Servlet is a Java code. In servlet, what we do, we write the codes just like we write the codes in Java, but JSP is basically a HTML based code. In servlet, writing code for servlet is somehow harder comparatively to JSP. Basically, in JSP we have HTML in Java, and in servlet what we have HTML in Java. So JSP is easy to code as it is having Java in HTML. So the outer layer is having HTML and the inner layer is writing code in Java. And in servlet what we have, outer layer is Java and we have to write HTML code inside the Java codes. So servlet plays a controller role in multi-view controller approach, and JSP is little bit slower than servlet because the first step in JSP lifecycle is the translation of JSP to Java codes and then compilation occurs. So it is a little bit slower if we compare the servlet with JSP. So servlet is faster than JSP. And also in terms of MVC approach, servlet plays a controller role in MVC approach, but JSP is the view in MVC approach for showing the output. So to show the output in multi-view controller, we have a JSP. And in terms of speed, servlet is faster than JSP because in JSP, the first step in the JSP cycle, life cycle, that is translation of JSP to Java code and then compilation occurs. So that's why the speed of the JSP is somehow a little bit slow comparatively to servlet. Servlet can accept all the protocol requests, and JSP is limited only for accepting the HTTP request. In servlet, we can override the service methods, but in JSP we cannot able to override that service method. In servlet, what we have by default session management is not enabled. User have to enable it explicitly. But in JSP, session management is by default enabled, or automatically, we can say it is automatically enabled by default. Now, what are the some advantages of JSP over servlet? First is it is an extension of servlet. We can use all the features of servlet in JSP also, and in additionally we can also use the implicit objects, predefined tags, expression languages, custom tags in JSP, that makes the JSP development or coding easy comparatively to servlet. The second advantage we can see here that is easy to maintain. As a JSP, in JSP we can easily separate our business logic with presentation logic. So, it is easy to maintain these things, or it is easily managed in JSP comparatively to servlet, because there we have to mix our business logic with the presentation logic. The fast development here is no need to recompile or redeployment. So, there is no need of recompilation and redeployment in JSP. So, for example, if a JSP page is modified, then we don't need to recompile it and redeploy the project. The servlet code comparatively, if we are comparing both the JSP and servlet, so the servlet code needs to be updated, and after the updation it needs to be recompiled if you have to change the look and feel of the application. But in JSP there is no need to recompile and redeploy. Comparatively to servlet, in JSP we have less code because we use some action tags, JSTL, some custom tags. So, with the use of these tags, the codes in JSP are little bit reduces in comparison to servlet. Now, the life cycle of the JSP, it follows the following steps. First is translation of JSP page. Second is compilation of JSP page. The third one is class loading. The class loading phase, in class loading phase, what we have to load the, class loader will load the class files, and instantiation means the object of the generated servlet is now created in this step, and in the initialization step, the container invokes the JSP init method. There are basically in life cycle of JSP, basically the three method works: init, service or destroy well. So, at the step of initialization, the container invokes that init method, and the next one is processing the request. So, now to process the particular request which is invoked by the server, by the requester, request side. So, at that step the container invokes that JSP service method, and at last the destroy step will occur, in which the container invokes the destroy JSP destroy method. Let me give you the brief overview of the JSP life cycle. First of all, the JSP translator converts the JSP codes into the servlet or .java files, and after that a compiler will compile that Java file into the class file, and then that class file will be loaded into the Java runtime environment, and then servlet objects will be created that will feed into the buffers, and again it will goes to the system. So, first of all, JSP page is translated into the servlet with the help of JSP translator, and then JSP translator is a part of the web server which is basically responsible for translating the JSP page into the servlet. After that, servlet page is compiled by the compiler and then converted into the class file. All the processes which are happening in the servlet are performed by the JSP later on, like initialization, committing responses to the browsers, and committing response to the browser, and destroy. These are performed, or these are happening in the servlets, these functions are performed by the JSP later. Basically, initially the JSP page will be translated into the servlet with the help of JSP translator, and rest steps will be further processed. Now, how to run a simple JSP page? So, to run or to execute the JSP page, you have to follow the following steps. First one is start the server, then you have to put the JSP file into the folder and then deploy on the server. If there is an issue, then you can also visit the browser. The URL is given here. Now, what is the directory structure of the JSP? So, the directory structure of the JSP is same as the servlet. We contain the JSP page outside the web info folder or in any directory. So, this is simply a directory structure of the JSP. Now, JSP scripting elements. What are the JSP scripting elements? So first is JSP scriptlet tag. Basically, this scriptlet tag is used to execute the Java source code in JSP. The syntax is this. So the code is, first of all, you have to write the what I had said earlier, that in JSP we have to write the codes, we have to write the Java codes inside the HTML codes. So the outer layer is having HTML code. So you have to open the HTML tag, then body tag. Inside the body tag, we are using a scriptlet tag. This is the indication that we are using a scriptlet tag, that we have two signs of percentage before the start of the angular bracket and before before the after the start of the angular bracket and before the end of the angular bracket. So this shows that this is the scriptlet tag. This is the particular syntax for defining the scriptlet tag. So here simply we are going to display the message that welcome to JSP. So simple, we are going to execute the Java source code here using the scriptlet tag. Now this is the example. Using JSP scriptlet tag, we are going to print the username. So first of all, what we have to do, you have to open the HTML tag, then body tag, then inside that tag we are going to have a form. This is the form in which we have two controls. First one is text box and the second one is submit button. The name of the text box is uname and the value of the submit button is go, and respectively we close all the tags. Now using the scriptlet tag, what we are going to do, we are passing the name uname. So string name is equal to request dot get parameter. Here this line is getting this line is used to get the parameter of uname, which you will pass here only inside the text box, and then out.print is going to print the name of that particular username. So whenever the output of this is just like this one, uname and button is go. This is the go button. So when we write any name here, suppose you have written ABCD. So when we click on this button, then after clicking on this button, you have a message just like this: welcome ABCD. Welcome ABCD. So overall the working of this code is look like this only. Now the second tag is JSP expression tag. The code which are placed within the JSP expression tag is written to the output stream of the responses. So there is no need to write out.print to write the data. It is basically the expression tag is mainly used to print the values of the variables or the method. So there is, just like in the previous example, you have to write the out.print method to display or to express the things which you want as per your desire, as per your requirement. But here there is no need to write that line of code. Okay, so this is basically the advantage of the expression tag. The syntax of the expression tag is given here, same as just like a scriptlet tag, but only here you have to write the Java source code here only. But in this we can see that after the percentage sign, you have to put double equal to sign or simple equal to sign, and then you have to write your statement. So here we can see easily that this is the syntax of expression tag, and here you are accessing that username from that particular code of JSP. Now the next one is JSP declaration tag. So basically to declare the fields or to declare the methods, we are using JSP declaration tag. Inside this, the code which is written inside the JSP declaration tag is placed outside the service method. There are basically three methods: init, service and destroy method. So So whatever the code you write inside the JSP declaration tag, then it must be placed outside the service method. Okay, so it does not get any, doesn't get memory at each request. So the syntax of this is, after percentage you have to put the sign, exclamatory sign, and here we can see easily that you are declaring the fields. So int data is equal to 50, we are declaring a variable having data. So value of that particular variable is 50, and this is the expression tag we are using here, and we can see that we are getting that particular data here only. So here we are going to cube the variable, that is n. So here with the use of expression tag, we are going to print the cube of 3, that will be 3 cross 3 cross 3. So these are the two simple examples which are showing the usage of declaration tag and the usage of expression tag, that when we can use the expression tag and when we are going to use the declaration or expression tag. So in both the examples, we have both the combinations of declaration tag and expression tag. The difference between scriptlet and declaration tag is, the scriptlet tag can only declare the variables, not the methods. Here we can see that with the use of declaration tag, we are going to declare the fields also and we are going to declare the method also. But in scriptlet tag, we can only declare the variables, not we can declare methods. The declaration of scriptlet tag is placed inside the service method, and as I already said that the declaration of JSP declaration tag is placed outside the service method. So these two are the two basic differentiation between the scriptlet and declaration tag. Now, what are the implicit objects in JSP? Basically, we have 9 JSP implicit objects, and these objects are created by the web container, which are available to all the JSP pages. The available implicit objects are out, request, config, session, application, which we commonly use. And here the objects are having with their types are displayed here. Objects are out, request, response, config, application, session, page context, page and exception. So these are the some implicit objects which we are using in JSP pages, and these are their types. Now, example of out implicit objects. Here for out implicit object, we are having an example which explains the out implicit objects. So first of all, we have HTML tag, then body tag, then we have, as I told earlier, that this is the syntax of JSP scriptlet tag having out implicit object. So here this code is going to present the or going to display the print the current time of today is basically this code is going to display the calendar. Okay, so for that purpose this code is written here. Now the next one is JSP request implicit object. So here we have form, we have a text box, we have a submit button, and here with the use of a scripted tag we have a string name is equal to request dot get parameter. So basically that request implicit object is created for each JSP request which is by the web container. So it can be used to get request information just like parameters, header information, remote addresses, servers names, port, content type. So whatever the information, if there is a request to get the information to process that particular request, we are having the request implicit object to process that particular request. So here with the use of dot get parameter, with the use of request implicit object in terms of get parameter, we are having the data of parameter, that is username. Then the next one is response implicit objects. So basically it is a object of type HTTP servlet response. It is implicit object of type HTTP servlet response, whereas request implicit object is a type of HTTP servlet request. So whenever the HTTP servlet response is created, then it instance is also created by the web container for each and every JSP request. So whenever the JSP request is required by the web container, then correspondingly the request response is also created. So here the same example is given here also, but here the response implicit object is used. So response dot send redirect, and it will redirect to the particular dat site. So basically what we have seen that these implicit objects makes more convenient as compared to the servlet programs, because in JSP we are going to create the label containers and all these things, and in servlet objects are created with the help of classes only, and the classes are HTTP servlet requests and HTTP servlet responses, which are fulfilled by the label containers only in JSP. Now what are the JSP directives? Basically these directives are the messages that tells the web containers how to translate a JSP page into the corresponding servlet. So in JSP there are three kinds of directives: page, include and taglib directive. So basically these directives help to reduce the codes with the help of action tags, with the help of implicit objects, and with the help of these directives the codes of JSP reduces. This is the simple syntax of using the directives in JSP. So here we have a directive attributes and here the value. Now the first one is JSP page directive. So it defines the attributes for the entire JSP page. So the syntax is %& page attributes is equal to value. There are so many attributes of JSP page directive, just like import, content type, extends, info, buffer, language, is EL ignored, is thread safe, auto flush, session, page encoding, error page, and is error page. So these are the some attributes of the JSP page directives. First one is import. So this import attributes is used to import the classes, interfaces, or any kind of members of a package you can import with the use of that import attribute. So it is similar, just like we are going to import the libraries, or we are going to import the keywords in Java classes or interfaces. So this import is similar to that one also. So here the syntax is page import is equal to java.util.date, and today is, with the use of expression tag, we are going to display the date of today by importing the particular class or interface. The second one is content type. So this attribute defines the MIME multipurpose internet mail extension type of the HTTP responses. So the default value is for this is this, and example is this only. It is only displaying the content type, that whether it is a MS Word or document or it's an application. So it is only displaying the type of the content. Extend attribute defines the parent classes that will be inherited by the generated servlet. Info simply sets the information of the JSP page, which is retrieved later on by using the get servlet info method of the servlet interface. Buffer attribute sets the buffer sizes in the kilobytes to handle the output which is generated by the JSP page, and the default size of the buffer is 8 KB only. So the page buffer is, here the syntax is also written here, the page and buffer size is 16 KB. By default size is 8 KB, but we can take we can use or we can set the buffer size in kilobytes to handle the output as per your requirement. Now the next one is JSP include directive. Basically this directive is used to include the contents of any responses of any resources. So it may be a JSP file also, it may be HTML, or it may be text file also, or it basically it includes the original content of the included resources at the page translation time. So it includes the files, and here we can use any file which we are going to resource for that particular time of translation. Example is, suppose we have a file HTML5 file header.html, and we are going to include that file in our JSP code. So for this purpose, we can write the following code. Now the next one is JSP tag lib directive. Basically, it is used to define the tag library which defines many tags. So we use the tag library descriptor file to define the tags. So here tag lib URI you given and the prefix you also can give. Example, just like URI you are giving here, tag lib URI you are giving here, and the prefix is my tag. Now my tag is equal to current date. You are going to display that. So if you are using our tag named current date, so to use this tag you have to specify the tag lib directives, and so that the container, that web container may get the information about the tag from here only. Now next is JSP action tags. Basically these action tags are used to control the flow between the pages and you use the Java beans. And JSP action tags are two. First is forward, then second one is include. Forward, the JSP forward action tag forwards the request and responses to the another resources, and JSP include, it includes the another resources. Now JSP forward action tag, basically it is used to forward the request to the another resources. It may be JSP, HTML or any kind of resource. So syntax of JSP forward action tag without parameter is this, and if you are using the parameters, then you have to use the param tag and you have to write the name value of the param. Now JSP include action tag, basically it is used to include the content of the another resources. Similarly, resource can be of any type. So here also without parameter you can include the page, and with parameter you can also include the action, you can include the pages. Now difference between JSP include directive and JSP include action: include resources at translation time and it includes the resources at request time. It is better for static pages, but for dynamic pages JSP include action will be preferred. JSP include directive, it includes the original content in the generated servlet, and JSP include action, it calls the include method. It calls the include method at it, and JSP include directive includes the original content in the generated servlet. That's all for today.